Okay, I'm making this video to try and answer some questions very quickly, get some stuff out of the way. There are some, it seems to be some misconceptions that keep coming up in comments, and I'd like to address those. And to be clear, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has taken the time to chime in, offer suggestions, so on and so forth. And hopefully this video is seen for what it is, out of respect for all our time and energy. I'm going to try to get some stuff out of the way. Hopefully provide a little bit more clarity and help to get down to the bottom of this a little quicker. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys up top. All right, so get a few things straight. For one, I've had this truck since 2017. Before that, I had a 1989 F-150 with the straight six. It was a two-wheel drive. I've never taken either of them to the shop. I've not taken a vehicle to the shop to a mechanic in perhaps the better part of 2 decades. So I do all my work myself. This is the first time I've actually been able to do it inside a covered and enclosed place. But all that said, I am a professional knuckle buster. I am very, very experienced in working on my own vehicles. So this isn't my first time at this in general, like working on a vehicle, and this also is not my first time specifically working on the wheel bearings on this truck. So when it comes to it, while there may be things that I could possibly overlook, I've gone to certain extents to make sure that I'm not overlooking things. So for those of you who are asking things like, did I remove the retaining clip? You have to remove this in order to remove anything from the inside of this hub. The only thing you can remove without removing this is the outside of the manual locking hub itself, which is right here. More on this story in a second, but just getting you guys caught up to speed with where I am and what I'm dealing with. We're going to step over to the other side right quick for a contrast, and we'll be right back. So please forgive the state of things. I've got a lot of projects going on in a shop that hasn't been used in probably a decade and a half. So part of it is cleared, and then part of it is quite decidedly not. Forgive the mess, but let's focus on the vehicle here. All right. So on this side, you can see the bearing in there. I don't know if you guys can get a good look at it, but it is there. It's doing just fine, and I have removed all of the hardware here. So starting with the cover, took that off, then removed this clip from just inside here in this groove. I don't know how well you guys can see that. There's a groove that this sits in, and this has been removed, of course. Then I removed this. Not sure what to call it. I don't necessarily need the name to service it. I just need to know what it does and how it works, even, and perhaps how to remove it or replace it, or tell whether or not it's broken. So while I might not have the name for it, this thing, removed it. Going through this process. Then after that, I removed what we see here. Get this cleaned up a little bit. So I removed the first outer lock nut. Forgive the look of it, but it is covered in in the grease, the high temp grease. No, ma'am. Back it up. What'd I say? Go on. Thank you. What do you do? Thank you. All right, I love you very much, but I'm busy. Okay. Anywho, remove the outer axle nut. Remove the little spacer, washer, whatever you want to call it, that goes in between them, and then remove the inner axle nut. So, no problems there at all whatsoever. Came right off the way that I expected it to. Again, having done this at least 4 or 5 times at this point over the years of having this truck. Part of the main reason why I decided to do this in the first place was, well, there's 2 reasons. On the other side, we'll get to in a second, but on this side, the brakes are dragging over here, and as you can see, the thinness of this this rotor, it is worn down and grinded down. Sticking my finger back here, you can feel the ridges and all the other unevenness. It has a probably close to a 45-degree slant on it due to a very uneven wear pattern, so it's time to replace that guy. That's part of the reason why I'm doing this whole job in the first place. While I'm in here, might as well get the wheel bearings replaced because they probably need it due to you know, the uneven wear and uneven usage of this. And also the brakes are sticking on that side, I think for that reason. Now, anyway, one other thing before we leave this side, you'll notice my wheel studs are doing just fine. So, on this side, this is where we're stuck. So to recap, every process that was used on the other side has been used on this side. We are a little messier over here, and I'm gonna get into that right now. So the reason why we're messier over here is because you'll notice there is no center cap on the hub here to twist it into lock or unlock. It popped off in the process of or should I say rather, it popped off while driving. It wore and popped off. So this was sitting on here, and of course this mechanism was sitting behind it. So you could see right into the hub, and the smoke that would come out when the vehicle was last driven, the smoke would come out from right here. Now, as far as this is concerned, however, getting this guy off, it's not the first time that has popped off before with a set of these, not this set, but it's not the first time that's popped off before, so I didn't think much of it. That said, getting into the hub itself, as far as I'll get into what I've tried here in just a second, but as far as where we are, answering the question that some of you have asked about the wheel studs, I removed the wheel studs in trying to pull this hub off so that I could easier access the nut that's in there. I don't know that you'll be able to see it too well in this video, but it is well back in there, that far. So the idea of, for instance, getting a screwdriver or a chisel in there is next to impossible, trying to get it in there to knock it off. Now, not to say that it hasn't worked for some, and I actually did use this in the past before I got the proper tool, but with it stuck at this degree, this is merely knocking off pieces of the lock nut, which is making it more problematic for me than anything else. I have tried using this with a hammer. It has not worked. I do have an air hammer here sitting on the ground right here that I've tried to use with different chisels. I've also tried to use the punch connector to punch and budge it, see if I can move it back or forth or anything like that. Anything to try to loosen it. I've tried using the chisel and the hammer and screwdriver to go one direction or to go the other direction. It has not budged at all. As far as the things that have been removed, just to kind of recap, I did remove the seal spring that sits on the outer groove. I did remove the hub mechanism itself, and I've removed the outer lock nut and the center washer that goes in between the lock nuts. The inner lock nut, the rear lock nut, the lock nut that's closer to the center line of the vehicle, is the only one that's left in there. There are no retaining springs. There is nothing that is blocking the access or should be blocking the rotation of that lock nut in this cylinder. So just to kind of get ahead of that, as far as reasons why it won't budge, I've seen suggested that it could have been either seized on there or heat welded. It seems like that's the case. I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch me do everything on this, but I am going to attempt to use one of the two now air drills that I'm trying to use, pneumatic drills that I'm trying to use to do it, and I'm also going to attempt to do it with my breaker bar here. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and get this off my hands right quick so that I'm not making a mess. I swear, I start a new roll of these every time I need a paper towel. I don't know where they go. I don't know what happens to the roll. I'm sure I do something with it. I just don't know. It's frustrating. One of those shop facts. But anyway, all right, let's get to it. All right, over here, and while I've got you and we're talking, we're here and chit chatting. That's disgusting. Anyway, so this is the tool that I've got to remove these lock nuts. As far as what I've seen suggested that I should try to get one that has the outer ring around these notches, and it allows you to apply greater pressure. However, for what I've seen and been able to research, those are actually for heavier duty axles. Not the Dana 44. So you F-250 and F-350 guys out there are in good position, because you can use that tool on your axles. Us F-150 Dana 44 guys have no luck on that. So far, at least in what I've been able to look up and research in 24 hours. So this being what I've got to work with, we're going to go ahead and go for it. And just for those who are still wondering what actually happened to the lug nuts, the wheel stud nuts, they are behind this hub assembly, this hub, in this part of the rotor, just laying there. I just punched them out. They can't fall out otherwise, so they're just sitting right behind this. So we're gonna go ahead and go for it and see what we can manage. So, when putting this on here, I'm sure and careful and thorough to make sure I get a good seat in there on the nut itself. And then, again, just due to the design, you can't put too much pressure on this because it will spin off. I've had this socket go flying. It's nearly hit me in the face. It has hit my dog in the shoulder. So if you're wondering what kind of torque has been put on this in my trying, we'll say a lot when it comes to it. However, we're not budging. We're slipping off. So there's that. I've been able to bend this breaker bar in my attempts to remove it, just to show you the thickness of the breaker bar and its length. So cheater pipes would be nice, but realistically, for one, it would be unnecessary, I would presume, for the length and strength of this breaker bar. And then two, realistically, as nice as a cheater bar might be, I don't see it being practical. And what I mean is, it's difficult enough trying to keep this centered square and pressured on the spindle nut itself. Having to then also make sure I've got a cheater bar in the right position and ready to be able to pull this just seems like more hassle than not. And I'm already capable of putting enough torque on this that this slides off, so more torque is not necessarily gonna do me any good, because I can't get more grip. So now that we've covered that part of that, we're gonna go ahead and try this with a pneumatic drill impact. It is set to its highest setting, highest air pressure, and this is what we get. Let's make sure we're on here. Bear with me a moment. There it is. All right, this is what we get. And you can sit here and do this for 2 hours if you want. It's not budging. You can see the letter there. I don't know if you can see the letter there, but it has not moved even one modicum of an inch or a centimeter. It has not budged. So I've seen it suggested that I use a impact wrench. My guess is that those of you who are suggesting that are not talking about a pneumatic impact, just because, again, it is not getting the job done. It is not even remotely getting the job done. My guess is that you're talking about either battery operated, or if such a thing exists, a corded one. And my question is it really that much of a power difference, for one? And then for two, if it is, sure, I'll go ahead and try it. But what I'm getting to now is the point where I'm going to have to do what I don't want to do. I don't want to have to cut this hub. I'd love to be able to reuse it and not have to buy a new hub. They don't sell them individually. I'd have to buy a new hub and rotor assembly. But should it come down to that, I can do that. When it comes to what's going on here, if there is a way to slide this hub past the bearing and the lock nut, I'd love to do that. It would give me the access that I need to really wail on that nut at a proper angle that's not simply going to chip off pieces, but will actually give me a chance, a likelihood of being able to turn it. If I could do that, or if you really think a battery operated impact is that much stronger than a pneumatic impact, then I'll try that as well. But as far as what it's looking like right now, it looks like I just need to cut this thing off of here and order a new spindle, new lock nut set, and new hub, which again comes as a hub and rotor. So I just want to say thank you guys very, very much for everything you've offered and suggested so far. I'd also like to say thank you in advance for those of you who will be willing to continue to work with me on this or suggest ideas. But just kind of getting you guys up to speed on where I am in this process, things I've tried, and also so I guess just kind of getting you up to speed on things I have at my disposal. I do not currently have a torch, and I've not tried that method yet. The heating, or should I say rather, heating with a torch and then cooling it quickly. What I have tried, as you can see here, is heating it. And initially, I tried heating it with just the flame from this, but when that wasn't sufficient, what I ended up doing was using this as a flamethrower with the WD-40 as kind of a torch. I was able to get this out of the way and just keep the fire going. This got hot enough that the fire from this made the fender too hot to touch. So as far as heat, plenty hot. And again, wailing on it when hot, and or trying to use the breaker bar or the impact wrench on it when hot, None of that has been successful so far. So if, for instance, this is not going to heat it up hot enough and a torch is necessary, then I can look into that. But just as far as what I've tried so far, catching you guys up to speed, there you all have it. That's where I'm at right now. Lord willing, we can get a bit more headway and a bit further down, you know, sooner rather than later. I'd love to be able to use my truck, but I understand if this, you know, if this is going to take longer than I'd like it to take. But that said, I would like to do this properly. I'd like to save as many parts as I can, but the bottom line, I want this truck to run. So whatever you guys think might be the best idea. One other thing I will say, I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try to tilt my head so you can see a little bit better. But the shape of this is no longer a perfect circle, and that's due to me trying to weld on it. So I might end up needing to replace it anyway. I do feel like I can make it work if necessary, but again, it's one of those things that might prove to be an unnecessary headache. So I'll take suggestions on that as well if you guys have them to offer. And I'll say, aside from that, thank you guys so very much. Thank you in advance. Thank you for everything you've offered so far, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of this. I appreciate it. Alrighty, thank you. Bye bye.